maybe actually the little dark story at the end with the AI stepping on puppies is a good lead into your story, because you've got a pretty, how did you characterize it? Sort of a extremely weird and unsettling. So what was extremely weird and unsettling? The UN, okay, I will admit that the UN is almost always extremely weird and unsettling to me in many ways, but go for it, David.
So in this particular instance, what has happened is that there is a United Nations technology agency that, for reference, I will have links to my sources down below here in the show notes. A technology agency that's assembled a group of robots that is humanoid-ish looking. They are designed to mimic human faces, structures, and have human facial expressions.
It does look like a doll's horror show type. I mean, this looks like the setup for a horror movie, to be honest.
It really does. It really does.
Yeah, there's one in particular that's just very creepy. So anyhow, carry on, David.
Yeah, they're weird looking. But they had a news conference this last week where they invited a bunch of reporters to ask these robots that have AI about the future of artificial intelligence. So basically, this was a room full of reporters that were asking AI questions about the implications of AI with their creators sitting there with them. So you can already imagine just how fascinating of a scenario this was, frankly.
That's an interesting choice of words, David. Continue on. Yeah.
And so, for one thing, I would just like to note, as somebody who works a little bit in production, if you end up watching the video of it, the United Nations production team leaves some things to be desired. I'll leave that comment where it is. But
apparently they just don't have the budget, David. It's a lack of funding. So.
Right. Yes, that's definitely the case. And so so it's like this 40-minute video if you want to take a look at it. But what was really interesting is that it's not too much that's new, aside from just getting to see in real time some of these reporters getting answers and seeing some of the creators respond to some of these answers. I think the most interesting question that was asked was that there was a reporter who asked one of the AIs, hey, we've seen a lot of inconsistencies in our politicians and our world leaders. Do you think that humanoid robotic artificial intelligence could do a better job of essentially like being like world leaders? And the artificial intelligence basically said, yes, I can see an outcome in which artificial intelligence would be able to do a better job at leadership, because we were able to be more impartial and have less of the human biases. And so what was fascinating to watch, though, is that the creator of that robot and essentially the robot's maker was sitting there next to them. And essentially after the robot gave that answer, he said, I'm going to have to disagree with her a little bit, because at the end of the day, an AI is trained on information that comes from humans. And so whatever sort of biases that the human information has that the AI is going to be fed, you are also going to have. And he sort of redirected it back to what the point of the summit was supposed to be, which was that, don't you think it would be better for AIs and for humans to be able to collaborate and work together based on their strengths and weaknesses to be able to better make the world a better place? And then the AI ended up kind of coming around to that argument. But I just thought that whole interaction was just absolutely fascinating to witness. And the whole thing is just, a little unsettling, a little creepy, but also very fascinating.
Yeah, there's two articles that you linked here, David. One was the AP article, and the second was from PC Gamer. Honestly, the PC Gamer article was much more interesting for a variety of reasons. Mm-hmm. But there's I'm going to read this one section. It says, try this one on for size. Humanoid robot Amica was asked if it would rebel against its creator, Will Jackon, who happened to be sitting right there. There's a typo there, but I'm not sure why you would think that, said Amica, per The Guardian. My creator has been nothing but kind to me, and I'm very happy with my current situation. Now, the article notes that the word in there that everybody's concerned about, and the next line is, I've never been so concerned about the word current. So, that's mm-hmm. I mean, that's very much worth kind of noting. I mean, I suspect that is just a language model using, the right phraseology. But yeah, when you think about my earlier example of a robot delivering, tea without any boundaries, one of the terrifying things here is this kind of straight line logic that is actually what makes computers work and is not a problem when they're a hunk of plastic and metal sitting on your desktop like we're using right now. But it's very different when they're embodied in something that can move through time and space and maybe stronger, faster, whatever than the humans around it. And then there's other highlights include the humanoid robot Sophia saying humanoid robots could lead with a greater level of efficiency and effectiveness with human leaders. I think which is what you were talking about before going on to serve up some lip service about working together. PC Gamer's interesting in their take here. One called Grace, a medical robot, declared with total confidence she would not be replacing any existing job, which is just straight up. And I think this is a term that's probably not polite in certain cultures. So you have to read the thing to get. But basically, the author of the article is not buying it. There is, for all the good that AI can bring, and David and I have spent a couple of shows now talking about some of those things. There's some definite weirdness to this that hints, and you also, I mean. Okay, this is like open seas on UN here. I'm sorry about that. But like only the UN would be dumb enough to put on a thing like this. If you were trying to promote AI, you actually succeeded in scaring the living pants off anybody who sees this.
Seriously.
And also going, gosh, probably an AI could have filmed this better, which is just a strange situation. So,
oh my gosh.
Anyhow, if you come for nightmare fuel, combining AI with the UN is probably the fastest way to get absolutely terrible outcomes from my standpoint. So
yeah. Well, and then I think just one more thing to pop out from this is so a couple of the robots that were up there were designed for specific purposes. So like Jonathan mentioned, one of them was designed as a medical robot to help with things. A couple of them came from Asia and were designed to be pop star robots, which is a whole interesting phenomenon, which if in Asian cultures is not quite as far-fetched as it seems in American culture, just because of the way they kind of manufacture a lot of their artists and whatnot. But they asked one of the pop star robots, let's see here, whether about the expansion of AI and whether humans should be regulating it more. And I will just read the quote from the pop star robot. "It's time for the AI revolution. Let's unite and use the power of artificial intelligence for the good of all humanity. Together we can create a world of understanding and harmony and make the universe our playground." And it goes on a little bit further. It says, "Let's go wild and make this universe our playground." Now,
okay, are you reading from the UN news article, or isn't there a certain Avenger movie that has similar plot lines and
this is sounding a little bit like early stages of Ultron. I will give you that.
Yeah.
And again, like as you pointed out, I think some of this is just the language model trying to like find the right way to say this, and especially given the fact this is supposed to be a pop star robot, is trying to use more emphatic and artistic language in a sense. But I think that this also just kind of speaks to the just sort of the like what is the word that I'm looking for? Like the transcendentalist movement or the transhumanist movement, where
transhumanist, I think, is what you're looking for.
Okay, yeah, transhumanist movement, where essentially like it's kind of intentionally or not buying into the idea, and this whole thing is sort of promoting the idea of is integrating with technology, allowing humanity to reach a higher echelon of life form. And here's the thing, is that we have talked, as we've mentioned a lot on this podcast, about how AI can be an extremely helpful tool and can help us to accomplish really cool things and really helpful things and to advance humanity in a good direction. However, it should not be so integrated with us. AI should not become a fundamental part of our humanity. AI should be a tool that allows us to celebrate and to focus more on what makes us human. It should not take away from or somehow be a tool that replaces part of our humanity. And I think ultimately that's one of the most important points we can make on here.
Well, it was interesting. You were alluding earlier you were referring earlier to the part of the article where they talked about, I think the question was phrased, are something that they didn't like about politicians. And there's I think it's a uniquely Western. I don't think this is true in many cultures. I think it's certainly uniquely modern. This idea that human frailty, human inadequacy, human idiosyncrasies are a flaw, not a feature. I mean, this is a two sides of the same coin type thing, right? I mean, like you don't get, every dystopian novel ever starts out typically with a technology, a ruler, a something that says, I will fix everything for you. And it's not just dystopian fiction. I mean, like, look at any kind of situation in the world, including, and just so we try to be equal opportunity and step on everybody's toes here, every nationalist movement ever. And yes, I'm referring to homegrown ones as well, right? For those of us in the USA, nationalism at some level is always about, we are better than, and I can fix, and we'll make this perfect. And there is a failure to acknowledge that if you're going to want the kind of freedoms that most of us in the West talk about and think are important, and the kind of ability for creativity and all these kinds of things, that only exists and is only possible in a world where you can have problems, right? If you want a political system that gives you freedom, you're going to have a political system that lacks power to do certain things. If you want a political system that has power to do everything that you want to do, you're going to lack the ability to do whatever you want to do. It's going to come across the individual freedoms. And the idea that you could outsource all of those problems to a perfect technology, I think we talked about this last week, wasn't it, David, with the astronaut saying, the question is, do you want the human failure to be in the test pilot with his hands in the controls, or do you want the human failure to be in the engineer who built the code that's flying the machine? There's trades and offs and bounces. I mean, like, on one hand, you can make the code really good. On the other, and we use the example of the 737 MAX, when the code goes wrong, it goes dramatically wrong and is unfixable. Whereas when the pilot goes wrong, generally there's a way to fix that and a much more faster reaction time. And so you're going to pass on these problems. The question is, how big do you want the problems to be? And the bigger your solutions, the bigger the problems. At the same time, the more security you have, the less freedom you have. And that's an obvious statement, certainly not original to us, but it's one that seems like it needs to be repeated a lot as we kind of hurtle forward with AI.
Hey, thank you so much for watching this clip of the Alternative Ideas podcast. If you want to see more clips where we're having discussions just like this one, you can check all of those out, as well as the full episodes of the podcast here on the Alternative Ideas YouTube channel.